Hey folks, you know who I am. I don't need to say it's Steve, but it is. It's Steve. I am in here in my studio today doing some mix downs. This is a song on the new album, which of course by now I'm sure you know the new album's called Live Fearlessly. This is a track called Clean Off Your Slate that I have everything in for. Actually, at this point I have everything in for everything, and I'm just working on the mixes. And I'm just going to kind of work on it a little bit here with the camera running and talk about what I'm doing. First thing that you got to do is I know that I don't have this situated real well, but hopefully you'll be able to get some idea of what's up over here. Here's my little mixing panel. I'm doing this a little bit old school. I'm not doing it on a computer. I'll probably do my next album on Cubase on the computer, but I wanted to do one. This is still digital, it's not analog, but it kind of is reminiscent of those old mixing panels. This is not triggered so that I can program the faders to go up and down at a certain point each, where I want it. I'm going to have to do this all by hand, just like they once did. But it's kind of exciting, it's kind of fun to do it that way. But I'll probably get into a little bit more techie stuff the next album, which I plan on doing sometime next year. But anyway, so I've put this down. I've got this in a mix down mode is what it's called. And what I have to do is right now I have to eliminate everything that I don't want to be part of the final mix. These up here, these are inputs. So this would be if I were going to play something live and try to capture it for a final mix right out of the chute. I don't want anything from the inputs, no keyboards or anything. So I push these buttons and boom. Nothing, even if I accidentally played this while it was doing its recording for the stereo track, it would not go on to the stereo track because those have been shut off. These buttons right here are called I think they're just called patches. They're weird. I've never used them. But they're something else that you could put something on there, particularly like a drum loop or something. So that brings us here, which is my main channel. So what I like to do when I'm doing a mix down is bring everything down to 0. I like to put my stereo track fader, which is right here, this red one. Maybe I can get in a little closer on that. Yeah. There's no way for me to get it really close right now, but sometime I'll do a home recording for dummies series and we'll get in close. But this red fader right here is my stereo track, and I like to bring it up so that it's right at 0. And then everything else, 0 is actually below here. So this is always the highest fader. Everything else, the 0 level is about there. And you can see it there, it's labeled that way, which is kind of nice. So now what I do is, the only thing on here that's going to play is these channels. So I like to just push play. And by the way, I'm not using headphones. I have headphones, but unless you have really, really, really expensive, great stereo headphones, I think I get a much better mix down from my monitors that are on the floor here that I bought that are supposed to be pretty flat. They don't enhance the sound at all. So if I get a good mix on them, I get a good mix on about any device. Whereas when I get a good mix, what sounds like a good mix on headphones, it never comes out the way that I want it to. So I use them while I am recording the stuff. Just to make sure that the sound is really, I'm just kind of surrounded in it, and it helps me sync up, but I never ever mix down through my headphones. And, maybe I'll find a pair of headphones that I like better for that. But anyway, so I like to push play, and I like to bring the lead vocal up first, because for me, that's the part that most needs to be present. So my lead vocals on a double track 7 and 8 should start in a second.
So you forgot to turn on your alarm and you went to bed really late.
Okay, so then over here, which you can't really read the screen, but my meter goes up and down here, and we want it to never peak beyond 0 decibels. So, and then there's a right and a left channel, and I want them coming up and down basically the same height. You don't want one really higher than the other. And weirdly enough, sometimes I have to adjust one side a little bit to get them to even out on the meter, but that's kind of what I'm always looking to do.
Your cell phone rang and woke you up, and it was already 9:28.
Okay, now
It was your boss yelling in your ear. Now things are going just great.
what I'm going to do from here,
You can do.
I'm going to start that line over now that I've got the channel up.
To turn on your alarm.
Let's bring the drums up.
Bed really late. Your cell phone rang and woke you up, and it was already 9:28. It was your boss yelling in your ear. Now things are going.
Okay, and let's give it a little bass. Because as I bring these other things up, the most important thing to me is I never lose the lead vocal. I want everything to come into balance, but I want the lead vocal to stay out in front. And then I never want the meter to rise up above 0, which gets trickier and trickier as you bring more tracks up because it's more sound. So,
And you went to bed really late.
bass.
Cell phone rang and woke you up, and it was already 9:28. It was your boss yelling in your ear. Now things are going just great. There's nothing you can do by then but clean off your slate. So what's
Piano.
that day? Well, I promise that it won't be your last. You gotta learn to move forward now and leave it all in the past.
Okay, now
Never learn right if you never did wrong, and it's not a permanent fate. So try.
let's go back a little bit. Let's actually go to the beginning because the piano has got some flashy stuff in this song that I want to make sure comes out. So I'm going to want to, while I do when I come up and get ready to actually record the final mix down, I'm going to want to bring the piano up and down in a few places. So I'll give you an example here at the beginning.
So you forgot to turn on your alarm, and you went to bed really late. Your cell phone rang and woke.
Okay, now what I just did there is turned it up, turned the master monitor volume up a little bit. So I'm actually not coming up higher on the meter at all. It's just how much volume I'm allowing to come out of the monitors went up so I could hear it better, but it keeps the meter stable because I didn't screw with anything on the channels. So once again, here we go. I want the piano a little higher at the beginning.
So you forgot to turn on your alarm, and you went to bed really late. Your cell phone rang and woke you up, and it was already 9:28. It was your boss yelling in your ear. Now things are going just great.
Okay, now let's see what happens when I bring some guitar into the mix here. And I need to make sure that they don't overpower. I had the guitar do kind of a fun just to add a little bit of rhythm to the situation. A little, almost an extra percussion instrument. So let's see how that comes out when I bring these up just a smidge. Okay, didn't hear them at all that time, so let's bring them up a little higher.
So you forgot to turn on your alarm, and you went to bed really late. Your cell phone rang and woke you up, and it was already 9:28.
caught up in how much I like the music side, and the lead vocal was starting to get a little bit buried in the mix. Not bad, but just a smidge. So I'm gonna bring that up just a tiny bit. We're gonna see if I can, because what I have to do is I have to practice these things and kind of figure out where I want everything at what time, because then when I push record and play, I'm gonna actually have to move these things in real time where they belong. So I want the piano a little stronger at the beginning, and I think the guitars are probably good where they're at for right now. Okay, there we go. And maybe the drums up a smidge for this, then back.
So you forgot to turn on your alarm and you went to bed really late. Your cell phone rang and woke you up and it was already 9:28. It was your boss yelling in your ear, now things are going just great. There's nothing you can do by then but clean on your slate. So what? So you had a bad day? Well, I promise that it won't be your last.
Okay. That was not bad for basic mix. We'll play around with it a little bit, but then when we go into that chorus, there's another guitar part that I got to bring up, and it can get loud in a hurry, and I'll show you what it is.
In your ear, now things are going just great. There's nothing you can do by then but clean on your slate.
Okay, power.
So what? So you had a bad day? Well, I promise that it won't be your last. You gotta learn to move forward now and leave it all in the past. You can never learn right if you never did wrong, and it's not a permanent fate. So chuck it up as a
Let's go back a little bit and see if I can get the level right for that,
had a bad day.
because it's pretty cool. It's just whenever you have someone go wow 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 with kind of a nice distortion, it's very tricky. There's such a fine line between too soft to add the power and too loud that it drowns everything else out. So that's what I'm always trying to find, is that sweet spot.
So what? So you had a bad day? Well, I promise that it won't be your last.
Can you hear it? Yeah, see?
Leave it all in the past. You can never learn right if you never did wrong, and it's not a permanent fate. So chuck it up.
And I'm losing the lead vocal, so I'm gonna have to probably bring the drums and the bass down just a smidge on that on the chorus, because the way they're being played, even though they were at the same level on the channel here, it's just like the part that's being played just lends itself to being a little bit louder. And so I'm probably gonna have to bring those down a little bit so that you can still hear the guitar but not lose the lead vocal, because if I bring the lead vocal up anymore, we're gonna start breaking our 0 point or 0 dB point up here, and then we'll create distortion in the mix, which we do not want. So let me back that up a smidge. Let's get to that chorus.
So what? So you had a bad day? Well, I promise that it won't be your last. You gotta learn to move forward now and leave it all in the past. You can never learn right if you never did wrong, and it's not a permanent fate. So chuck it up as a lesson learned and plain on the slate.
And I don't know if you caught that, but I brought it up just a smidge where it went because I really liked that line, and I asked Chris, my guitar player, to double what the bass was doing and what the left hand of the piano was doing there, to just really kind of add a little emphasis, because I like that bum ba down now now. So the hardest part about mix down for me, especially when I'm working with great it's so easy to be critical of yourself, but when you're working with great musicians, you just get so giddy about what they're adding to your music, is that I sometimes forget to make the overall song more important than hearing what these other people have done. And I love Chris's work so much that I'm like, oh man, I need to get the clarity up on that so we can hear that guitar part better. And it's like, well, really, I don't know if that's always what's in the best interest of the song. Sometimes what's in the best interest of the song is for all of that to come down a little bit and make the vocal more clear. But, you know, that's just part of the experience. Let's see how this sounds now.
Just great. There's nothing you can do by then but clean on your slate. So what? So you had a bad day? Well, I promise that it won't be your last. You gotta learn to move forward now and leave it all in the past. You can never learn right if you never did wrong, and it's not a permanent fate. So chalk it up as a lesson learned and played on the slate. You pick up some.
See, and I'll definitely want to remember to bring the keys up just a smidge right there toward the end of that phrase.
Chalk it up as a lesson learned and played on the slate. You pick up some flowers and get dressed up, and you meet a girl for a date. You get a couple of drinks and spill one in her lap and the other down on her plate. Everything goes downhill from there.
You know, and like I said, it's like the process of mixing down for me is really one where you start with nothing and you start bringing up. Like I said, I like to start with the lead vocal. Boy, that's a real tight. Woo! No one wants to see my face that close up, including me. Anyway, I start with the lead vocal because it's kind of the most accessible thing for the listener. And I want to make sure that it never gets lost in the mix. I bring it up, and then I start trying to bring everything else up a little bit at a time. And it's kind of like shaking a tree. If you shake it long enough, some fruit's going to fall out. And you just kind of have to stick with it. And if it gets really, if it really starts to get screwed up, sometimes you have to just bring everything back down and start from scratch. But usually what I will do is I'll bring one thing up and get it to where that feels good, and then I'll try and add in another layer. So I'll usually start with drums and then add bass and then add piano. And if I like where those three are blending together, and then I start bringing in something else and I'm not crazy about what that's happening, I can always just bring the new thing back to zero and start bringing it back up and try and play with it. So it can be tedious, but it's also exciting because this is when you finally get to hear your work become something. So that's what I'm doing right now. I've got to do it for 11 songs. But that's okay. Part of what I signed up for. Okay, I will talk to you later. I got to get back to work, gang. Thanks for checking in, and I will see you on the flip side. Steve Lungrin signing out.